Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Cam Harris, Director, Digital Business Solutions, Optus Business.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Digital workplace transformation. We're looking forward to spending a few minutes talking about what is an extraordinarily hot topic. I'm going to be joined today by Vaughan Klein, Director of ANZ Collaboration at Cisco Systems. Welcome, Vaughan.
Great to see you, Cam. Thanks so much for having us here.
Yeah, thanks for joining me on stage. So, look, we're going to share a bit of conversation together, and you're going to hear from both of us through the duration of this talk. Did everyone have a good time last night? Did everyone have a good time this morning? Not so much? Yeah, there's quite a bit of casualty, I think, from some of the activity that happened last night. So we're going to try and keep it amped up. I hope you got a coffee. If we sort of look back to the keynote, and every session throughout all of the narrative here at Cisco Live, there's an absolute common theme of disruption. And it's almost a term that's becoming fatigue. There's a continual conversation of the changes that is happening. And whether we talk about the way our lives are changing in our social environment at home, if it's how we communicate with our friends and family, it's the way we're connecting our homes in a way like never before, to the point that when we move through our homes adapt to what we're doing at any particular time. We can talk to our homes. It's impacting in our work life, it's impacting in the way we buy, we transact, and the way we fundamentally do business. And there's really three big things that we're hearing about that are changing the way we think about the future 2, 3, 5, and 10 years from now. And the first of those is just the common theme of technology. If we go back 20 or 30 years, which dates me somewhat, in the world that we were living in, we would identify a problem. We'd identify a problem, we go, we need to solve this problem, and there were smart people who would then, over a number of years, start to work out how to solve the problem with technology. And in 3 or 5 years' time, we would then adopt it, we'd start using it, and go through big change programs, and the world would then start to change in what we're doing. But it's now changed. There's a big change that's occurred. And the change that's occurred is now capability is created. Capability is created, and we're seeing enormous amounts of capability here at Cisco Live. And then when we see the capability, we then light up our thinking about the types of things that we can solve with the capability that now exists. And a little example of that, one of our account managers works at Optus Systems. He was exposed to a lot of new capability quite early on and was not using it in his day-to-day working life. And as he then continued along using old ways of working, was suddenly exposed at a very short period of time in terms of what good could look like. And literally within 24 hours had transformed, or did transform, his entire way of working, delivering, engaging with customers, because he saw what good looked like. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that. And what we're also seeing is enormous change around employees and employee expectations. It's kind of hard being an employee today. Businesses are demanding a lot. There's a lot of pressure on us to do more with less, and to do things that we've never done before, and at lightning speed. And we're starting to see employees demanding of organisations new capabilities just to allow them to do their job, and then to start doing their job and different jobs extraordinarily differently. And then lastly, we're seeing enormous disruption around the customer themselves. And in Australia, a recent survey saw that the majority of organisations actually see the customer as the greatest reason that they need to undertake a digital transformation and a workforce transformation journey. And as we move forward, we're going to see that accelerate. And customers themselves, they're looking for a different way too. They're no longer happy with the way they engage. And when they talk to your employees, they talk to us as employees. They want to do that differently to how they've ever done that before. And as we sort of think about where this is going and how this is being defined, it all starts in our home. 25 years ago, just about 30 years ago, when I was launching out into my career, I was the first person I knew in my entire circle of life to have a laptop. It was a compact laptop, I think, or whatever the brand was at the time. It's a little black and white screen, it was tiny, and I'd go to a party, you'd sit there, I know it sounds pretty dorky, but we'd sit there playing Snake in black and white with 4 buttons, up, down, left, right, and that was just cutting edge. I was the first person I know that had a mobile phone, a brick, this great big thing, and then I had a little Palm Pilot for taking notes that tried to actually work out, based on a crypto type writing, what I was actually saying. And so when we looked at that, that was cutting edge. No one at home had that capability. And if you fast forward to today, the reverse is now occurring. The absolute reverse. When we go home, we have incredible capability. Our homes are connected, we talk to our home, we turn the music on, we've got our smart devices, our identity's in our pocket, it lights up our world as we move from home to the shops and we're conducting e-commerce and transacting. Our experience is unheard of. It's incredible. And then we come to work. And in most organisations, when we come to work, we don't have a world that is anywhere parallel to the world we have at home. We step back in time. And it's not just me saying it. There is a recent OECD country survey of the top 30 countries in the world. And what we know is in Australia, we love tech. When new tech comes out, we adopt it in our private lives. We are number 5 in the world of adopting technology in our home and in our personal lives. But we are number 25 on a global scale of adopting technology in organisations out of 30. We are nearly the worst in the world. And we've got to start asking questions. Why are we so good at technology in our private lives and we are just not very good in our business lives in executing against new technology? And when you think about global competition, when you think about getting things done, when you think about organisations being effective and winning, competing and delivering great outcomes to everyone, including customers, it is impossible for us to win as a country or a business unless we get closer to the personal adoption, what our customers and employees are experiencing every single day. And as we move forward, we've got to start to look at why. And look, I'd love your perspective, Vaughan, if you want to kick us off here. What's going on in this massive divide between home and work?
Oh, well, look, I think what's happened in the work environment is if we wound up with lots and lots of silos of communication. We've actually studied this. I mean, as you'd expect us as sort of the largest provider of collaboration technologies in the world, we do a lot of analysis on what's going on in organisations. And there is minimally 5 different applications. That's a good one if you're trying to do some sort of collaboration activity. Frequently 10 and as many as 15 different applications for you to conduct a project or an activity. And that's not a very good way to do it. And for those of you who are in IT, who's in IT, everybody? Running IT departments, that becomes really, really difficult. And this is what we actually refer to at Cisco as the toy store problem. So when you're in a toy store, you have both the child and you have the parent. In this instance, the child will be the user and the parent will be IT. The child wants something to play with. There's a myriad of things, but the parent wants something educational. Well, the user wants something that they can do for their task or their project, but of course within IT, it's got to be secure, it's got to be compliant, it's got to have single sign-on, we've got to be able to roll it out. And that disparate moment of what do we do for the user and what actually works for IT is very much like the toy store problem. And when we get it wrong, as we say, what happens? Well, the kids don't play with the toy because they didn't want the wooden educational thing. They wind up in the kitchen banging on pots and pans. And so then we get another tool to try and resolve the issue, and we wind up in these multiple technologies, fragmented experience and frustration.
So toys, I don't think we get toys into the agenda, but fantastic, let's play with a few toys. So, we're seeing this consistently, and we're also then seeing when people get the toys, whatever the toys are, and let's say they're the toys that the person's actually chosen themselves, there still is this need to help them understand how to get value, how to actually use it on a day-to-day, how to make it so easy that they don't think about it. And there's parallels to this. When you think of the parallels, think about very, very complex historical technology, which none of us now think about how it is that we use it. And you can go back to electricity. If we go back in electricity, originally it was from complexity, it was actually a bit dangerous, and That then has evolved to the point today where there is not a single person that can't walk into anything, plug something in, switch it on, and make it work at all. In fact, nowadays, if you look at my home, every room that's utility, you walk into, the lights just turn on automatically. And with connected homes, you turn the music on, dim things down, make it just right. And you've got parallels in water, but you then go beyond that. Think about photos. Think about photos where if you go back 10, 15, 20 years, if you really wanted extraordinary photos, you had to work hard to get extraordinary photos. And then when you wanted to share photos, you'd have to jump on a plane or send something in the mail, physically turn up, and you would show someone some of the examples of what's going on in your life. Now, we get overexposure right now, but if you think about that in simple terms, my 78-year-old mother-in-law now takes photos on iPhone and posts it instantaneously and doesn't have any idea how that works at all. Photos have become utility. And there's example after example after example that once you know what good looks like and you make it so easy that people don't need to think about it, it actually becomes utility where the technology disappears and the experience takes over. And in the world of workplace transformation, that is actually now where we are. You know what's interesting? Let's just tell you a little anecdote. Optus, has anyone been to the Optus campus other than an Optus employee in this room? Yeah, there's a few people. So it's one of the largest campuses in the Southern Hemisphere. And it's a beautiful place. We had enormous amounts of consultants. There's massive design. There was user focus groups. You know, you can sit in a barbecue area cooking a barbecue and have a meeting. You can sit in an open space in a lounge and, well, I'm not sure I've ever done that. You can go into a space which is appropriate for one person, many people, stand up, sit down, drop in. There's the little tubs or hubs, which is like a little cocoon that you can sit in if you want to hide and have some privacy. There is a space that is incredible for anything you want to do. But what we found is there was a complete disconnect between the physical spaces and just the core connectivity and the ability to join our virtual worlds into that space. And until we then get that break connection removed, we didn't see the true benefit, or we haven't seen the true benefits. So we have great spaces, and everyone talks about workplace transformations, how people walk around the building and where they sit, but it doesn't transform productivity to the true extent until you join that physical world to the virtual world to the human being and make that work as one. And when you make that work as one, amazing things happen. We'll give you some insights into that. And what we also know is that we need to get connected. One of the challenges Optus Business faces right now is in about 9 months' time, the Macquarie Park train station is going offline for about a year. So we've got 6,000 or 8,000 employees that turn up every day to work. Most of them come by train, and there will be no train station, which is kind of a problem. And so we are more than just getting capability for people to connect and get things done, but we're actually mobilising the connectivity of every employee so they can actually work more effectively absolutely anywhere. And when we talk about connectivity, we're going to talk a little bit more about how that comes together, and we're going to transform things. But what we also know is that email has historically been a massive thing. We book things by email. We can book spaces by email. We communicate by email. We are addicted to the old way of doing things, which has nothing to do with modern future workplace. And there's recent statistics that actually say that one face-to-face or video communication with another human being replaces 34 emails. Isn't that extraordinary? Who here suffers from email inbox clutter? If it's not 100%, the other guys, the liars, can put their hand up. I mean, inbox clutter is absolutely extraordinary. One face-to-face engagement replaces 34 emails. So the fastest way for you to get rid of email is actually to change how you do business, both in spaces and in a virtual environment. So people are demanding more. They're demanding more in an extraordinary pace, and there's this massive gap between where we are today and where we need to be in a very, very near term. And what I'd like to hear from you, Vaughan, is when we talk about this gap, you know, what are you seeing about this gap? as we are here, and we need to get to a place that's far more effective?
Well, I think, Cam, we go back to sort of those silos of communication. That's a bit of a problem. But we need to get the experience right. Throughout the last few days, we've actually had one of our vice presidents here. His name is Torkel Mellingen. Torkel is actually the first ever vice president of design at Cisco. Sounds like a foreign concept to a technology company, but actually getting that UX right is the critical part to cross that divide. So it needs to meet your needs as an IT and the people that feed and water the system, but realistically, if we don't get that UX right, then we're going to fail. And I think in the keynote yesterday, you saw how far we're pushing that UX. So when we invented, telepresence 2006, 2007, that became a concept of one button to push. We had one button on the phone or on the device in front of you that you could push that would give you a scheduled meeting and a video conferencing. And what we saw in the keynote is we're even getting away from the button now. We're actually being able to walk up to the unit that you can see there on Cameron's left, and you're actually able to talk to the unit. And it will actually know who you are when you arrive in the space. It'll do the facial detection, it'll have a look at your calendar, and you'll be able to say, "Start my meeting." That's all you'll need to say. And that'll actually then go and do that situation. So, we've really focused on UX, and we're really focused on that simplicity to the point where we're even removing the buttons. Gone to the days where we had technology guys trying to work on how we get another LED on something. We're actually having a chat with the users about how they want to get the ultimate experience. And for us, we talk about this as how do we get to 6-star? So 5-star experiences, we've already got. If you walk into that meeting, and you press a button, you get a great high-def experience, that's kind of 5-star. But what does 6-star look like? And actually, what we noticed is the people in the C-suite, in the highest level of the organisations, already have a wonderful 6-star experience. That's because some IT guys already been in there and set up the meeting. There's some coffee and some donuts on the table. Someone's prepared an agenda. There's somebody who's also taking the notes and taking the action items, and that'll turn out as a product afterwards. And we want to be able to start to automate those things so that everybody has some type of virtual assistant, and everybody can move from a 5-star experience to what the C-suite may experience, which is a 6-star experience.
And it's going to allocate tasks, right?
It's going to allocate tasks.
It's going to allocate tasks? We just hard
Yeah.
code you. Yeah, okay, right. Yeah, so this user experience, things have got to change, they've got to change a lot. And what you're also going to see, and you heard this around Rowan doing the keynote, augmented reality and virtual reality, and that's going to put enormous pressure on networks and how you then serve up the capability as things explode in the requirement for capacity. And at the same time, not only is it going to be about the physical spaces, but this highly mobilised workforce. And when we start thinking about that, into the future, our mobile capacity, our connectivity is already in this country reasonably good, if not very good on a global standard. In fact, from an Optus standpoint, we just won Best Network in Class from a mobile provider across balanced scorecard in the country. We're good at mobile, but it needs to get even better. And the advent of 5G is going to change a lot. It's going to change the ability for people to communicate. And Vaughan, once again, you have perspective on 5G and where that's going to go in terms of this connectivity of people and how they work.
Yeah, so it was interesting. Rowan Trollope did sort of the predictions in the keynote about, maybe that smartphones in 2025 won't even be here. And what he's looking at is augmented reality and virtual reality, and for the fact that will live on a pane of glass on your eye. Given the fact that I think Ken introduced him, he spent about $8.5 billion on acquisitions in the last 3 years. He sees a lot of technology. He can see what's going, but that's predicated on, one, obviously mobile, but two, therefore, if we're going to be delivering vast amounts of high-definition data, then we're going to need these style of networks in order to do it. The network is the limitation, not the software is the direction that we're headed. So 5G is a really important step in the journey, and that's as we look into the future. But even right now, what we focus on when we have a meeting is we can kind of go, the people in the office who have a wonderful telepresence unit get a wonderful experience, but it actually doesn't work if we don't have a look at what we call the B end. What's the experience of the other people that aren't in the room? And that must be comparative, equal, if not better, than the experience of the people in the room. And that's predicated particularly about mobile. And mobile has been probably the hardest part to solve for the democratization of the experience. With 5G, we can present an experience that is mobile, equal to and better than the experience of the people that are actually sitting in the room. That's what it provides with us. What you can see on the screen there in front of you is actually some virtual reality. That's a Spark board. You'll see them dotted around the arena right here, but that's actually a Spark board in a virtual reality space. So that would be somebody who is mobile, actually being able to work on a whiteboard that doesn't exist in front of them, with people that are actually in the room working on the whiteboard themselves. So that's the sort of technology that we've already got, and we can generate.
Yeah, so I have a Spark board in my house. I'm looking forward to this one because then I can truly work. So what's good look like? Talk us through good.
Yeah, so what does good look like? I mean, this is what we've been trying to solve for. We can see here, you have your project. This is the most important part of everything that we're trying to do, is the task that you want to complete. And we know that there are all sorts of things that we need to assemble in order to get that. Firstly, there's the documents. There's the video combination. There's the scheduling of meetings. There's the furious chat that goes on, what we call furious chat. I'm sure you've all experienced furious chat before, in order to complete that project. And then we have all of the people. Increasingly, as Cam said, we're asked to move faster and do more with less. And so we get more and more people from different parts of the organisation to work on the project. And that now extends into the external. And bringing together that environment of all of these necessary gear changes and moments of what we need to assemble and all of the people has been a really, really difficult exercise. And that's what we solved to with the Spark collaboration space, the ability to bring all of those things together in one place. If you think about what's happened in the digitisation of the office environment, and we refer to this all the time, mail became email. Files and folders turned into your desktop. Just about everything that we did in the physical instance, we digitised and put it on the desktop of a PC. The only thing that we didn't digitise was actually the concept of a space, of a meeting room, a place for people to come together and share all their ideas and information and make decisions. Well, what we've achieved with Cisco Spark is exactly that. We've digitised a space where the whiteboards and the people and the information reside. And that, again, goes to before, during, and after. I'm going to put the presentation for today in a space. Cam, can you have a look at that? He's had a look at it. Let's meet and discuss it, and then let's make our annotations after. This is really the reality of this 6-star experience that we talked about. How do we use a space and assistance and information to actually get a wonderful experience going in the preparation of the discussion of the meeting that we want to have, in the meeting with all of our high-definition video capability, and then how do we follow up the actions after? That's what we've been solving for.
So that's basically bringing together the space world, the actual world that we work in physically, into the virtual world.
Correct.
And seamlessly connecting them both on a continuous basis.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. So when we actually look at this, there's great capability, and organisations need to think about how do you then start to execute on this. In terms of simple ingredients, the first thing is most organisations will have a workplace strategy. They'll have a director of it. I had dinner with some last night, and they're thinking about how do I change work. And that is the physical and the capability coming together. And it's a journey. It's not an instantaneous thing, but what we do know, until you have capability and you can demonstrate what good looks like, we just don't get people using both the space and the virtual capability to the fullest extent. The other thing that we see, and this is living out inside our organisation right now, is it's not just incremental change. Incremental change in a world that has this much turmoil just cannot get us to where we need to go. And then we need to work out, how do we keep this world running? How do we keep the connection between the virtual and the physical together? And how do we make sure it is deployed everywhere, available to everyone, and they're actually using the capability? And so I'd be really interested, Vaughan, once again, you've got some examples of Cisco in your journey as you align to the physical transformation and the digital transformation and the adoption that you actually see and how that actually works.
Let's just put it on the table, Cam. The adoption bit, the usage adoption is the critical component. We can provide all of the technology in the world, but if we don't get that right, then we're not going to have a very successful project. We won't get the outcomes that we seek, and the next thing we know, the users will be back playing with the pots and pans, looking for another way to resolve it. So this is really, really critical. I haven't found, in my many years involved in this technology type, I haven't found a one-size-fits-all recipe for every organisation that we can kind of say, so here's the blueprint for success. But we have learned some common themes around that. And for us here at Cisco, here's an example. We do a thing called Magic Minutes. Magic Minutes is a GoPro with a guy who goes and sees our senior executives, our vice presidents of the organisation, and says, what feature of the platform are you using today? Now, it might be wireless sharing, it might be whiteboarding, it might be proximity, it might be anything of those types. And they will then, for 5 minutes, have a quick document video of how they're using a feature of that technology to resolve something in their day. So we get a top-down perspective of them using the technology, and I think that's very, very important. When the C-suite start to say this is the transformation that we need, that's good. But we're actually also then showing them just a single feature that they could actually apply in their day. And we do these things regularly. 5-minute videos, all done in-house, all done on a GoPro, costs us nothing, but in each instance we're moving it forward. And we also have this sort of concept too, Cam, that people may have heard, is this sort of the gamification, which is, you know, when you're playing a game and you're doing really well, you level up. And when you level up, you get additional skills or capacity or things to do. We'd like to see that within the usage and adoption bit. Once you've achieved a certain level of competence, well, then more features are made available to you. And the Magic Minutes does that. Did you know that if you were doing this, then you could also do this? And we progressively take the employees on a journey of enhanced experience and better utilization of the software. All done, essentially, 5 minutes with a GoPro for free.
Yeah, and look, we're seeing exactly the same example. We adopted a range of technology something like 8 to 12 months ago, and the adoption had a curve that looked something like this. It's quite consistent. Initial extraordinary hype. Everyone was very, very excited. People were running around, they're gripping out iPads and iPhones and making video calls and doing things at an extraordinary pace. But we then saw a very rapid drop-off of the usage in the organisation between rooms and the virtual capability. And in fact, as late as last week, we did another messaging campaign to our internal stakeholders, and we gave them a little video of actually what bad looks like. We actually had a video of what bad looks like, with a second video of what good looks like. And we just simply posed the question, which one do you want to be? And we actually put a bit of a challenge. And what we've seen, within about 24 to 36 hours after that, an extraordinary uptick of not just having the application and capability installed, but we've seen an instantaneous increase in the usage of capability in both physical and virtual space environments. And so we undertook this journey about 12 months ago. We rolled out a whole heap of capability to our people, particularly our sales individuals who were laptop-centric, email heavy, audio conferencing was all they knew, and if they had to have a good meeting, they would physically need to turn up at our offices and they would do a video conference or telepresence there. In fact, it was even more extraordinary. There was times when you'd walk into a room and there would be an iPhone on hands-free, a Polycom unit that was actually on at the same time, and a Cisco telepresence microphone all pushed together to blend them together, even though the technology to not do that already existed. And so we've rolled out new stuff. iPads to everyone, iPhones to everyone, Cisco Spark. We've got 500-600 users in that particular group. And the change is astonishing, sometimes even slightly inappropriate. On buses, in bars, joining board meetings, from places, funny shots. It takes a little while to understand that a shot from here, like there, is not as flattering as a shot from there to here. But we're getting extraordinary uptick of people changing how they work. And one of the people the other day said to me their email has just dropped off the planet. So where they would have had 140, 150 emails a day, they're seeing an extraordinary drop simultaneously, being more effective. That concept of 34 emails to one true engagement is playing out in real time. And then this event, as we brought it together, was brought together by marketing, and marketing are using this full capability too. But the challenge with marketing, it's just not what they have within their physical world and within their virtual world, but it's all of the ecosystem partners and the other partners in the organisation that are not yet licensed for capability, which also need to come together. And so with a combination of what we have bought and adopted, and then what you can download for free, it is truly democratic and pervasive. Everyone can be included. And this event for us we've got our stand, I'd love you to come across there, would not have been possible without new ways of working when it was a very, very small team that put this together for us to execute. And so how do we change this game? So what is the framework for change? And the way we're thinking about it within Optus, when we engage with our clients, is really to simplify down the world that we work in into just a small number of areas to make change. The first of those is obviously customer. We need to think about the spaces, the connection points, the world that a customer enters into when they engage with our organisation, and we need to change that to be mobile, digital, and highly connected in every part of that experience. The second of that is focus hard in on employees. Let them get mobilised. Let them get connected. Start to base both customer and employee experience on their identity in their pocket. And as they try to do things, you personalise their world, both virtually and physically, based on the identity they carry with them every minute of every day. And as you walk into a space, it will light up to do the things you need to do. And with facial recognition coming shortly, along with the ability to talk, it will actually know it's you. You walk in and you can start your engagement in a space instantaneously with it tailored to you, with all your information. And so those spaces, both physically and digitally, hyper-connected, find the space you need and get that joined to the digital experience. None of this is possible without incredible connectivity. So connectivity and high-speed connectivity will underpin a modern digital future workplace. And rethinking at the same time with that connectivity, how do you get the blend right? How do you get the blend right with people that are coming on site, people that are not on site, people that need to share information inside and outside the organisation? How do you rethink it so that it's about trust? It's about enabling people to connect securely rather than restricting all of this innovation to take place. And the final piece is leveraging cloud. When you look at what's coming, and we've seen the incredible innovations coming in some of what Cisco's doing in both physical spaces, finding a space, and then connecting and communicating within a space. The adoption of that is going to come at lightning speed. So that virtual reality, that talking to you, that Alexa, if you like, for the enterprise, that's coming within the Spark environment, will just turn up in the near future because it's cloud. It's a cloud-connected environment. There's no change management. There's no massive project that is required. Within the next 30 days, 60, 90, you won't get pinned down on this. We're going to see the capability literally just turn up. In fact, just the other day, a new feature turned up that I didn't know was coming, and you just suddenly go, oh, what's that? Cloud changes how you deliver capability that is moving in an extremely fast pace without all the problems that we've experienced within our IT and delivery organisations. So when you think about this, you know, it's not just Cisco, it's not just Optus, it's not just you, and it's not just our people. It is a collective of all of us together that are going to enable this change. It's a village. It's a village that can come together to change how we work, that can help our people understand what good looks like, and that we can go on this journey with technical capability and IT departments to deliver a new outcome. So the first thing we have to do all together is, one, have a strategy we align to, which is effective. We've got to have a purpose of how we're going to build this out, and that strategy has to be built around user experience. We had a major organisation that we're working with recently, and we sat down with them. They said, look, you know, we've deployed millions, in fact it was tens of millions of capability, and the usage of the capability was 10% at best. And they're going, we don't understand. The executive's saying we spent $20 million and we're just not getting the outcome. It's basically saying it is a waste of money. So we have to pull back and put the user at the centre of the strategy, not the technology at the centre of a strategy. And we then need to start to execute against that. The other thing that we know is whether you are about to or you already have capability, the way to get true adoption is to identify things that your people do, processes in your organisation, things that you need to achieve, and build a use case of how new capability can change how you achieve that with a far better outcome than you've got today. How do you speed things up? And we're starting to see that in our organisation when we then focus in on a HR thing or an expenses thing or a deliver to customer thing. We're starting to see incredible change in speed, and not incrementally. We're seeing things change from days to minutes in the ability to execute. And when things go wrong, the ability for people to come together, to communicate, and to then solve very, very quickly, then keeps that outcome to the customer actually at the centre of the organisational benefit as well. And the adoption is key. If you have technology that is not 70 or 80% being used on a daily basis, there is something fundamentally wrong with either the technology or how the technology is deployed or how the users are interfacing to that technology to drive an outcome for them. There is something wrong. So into the future, if you need massive, massive change management, not adoption, but change management programs, it actually means there's something wrong. If you have to teach people why they should change, there's a problem. The best technology, the new iPhone, the new Samsung, new capability, an app, no one needs to teach you how to use it. You download it and it goes. And yet in the corporate world, what we've seen is we've had to do change management with hundreds of people involved. What we need is use cases and adoption. Make it easy, help people understand it, and you're going to see extraordinary results. And so when we talk about, this was really a future conversation, but when I engage with customers, it's no longer about the future of work. Vaughan's future of work, it's actually about now. Our employees, it's not a future of employees, it's the employees of today. There is not a single employee in our organisation or executive that doesn't want something better today. You know what's frightening? We saw a statistic. Holly on Tuesday, who was presenting on stage, a thought leader, absolutely amazing thought leader in the industry. And the statement was made, not only are something like 63% of all employees in this country disengaged, and there's about 23% of them that actually don't really care, we've got a major problem with engaged employees. But within just 5 years, 6 out of every 8 employees in our organisations will be millennials. They'll be millennials. And when they typify a millennial, these are the 10,000 hours. By the time they leave school, they've spent 10,000 hours typically playing computer games. They are gamified and they expect things to happen fast and be rewarded. This is not the future of work. It is actually about right here, right now. And as an organisation, coming together with Cisco, with the capability that Cisco has, with the way we can pull the pieces together with services and capability, with the adoption programs, we are here as an organisation to help on this journey, from a thought leadership standpoint to actually adoption and execution. And everything we're talking about is on display just over there at the Optus stand. So if you haven't seen this in action, how you find space, work into spaces, connect with spaces. If you haven't seen how you can then get connectivity which is aware, that is intelligent, that guides people, actually lights up the world as they move around. We can see what people are doing, the intent, the usage. If you haven't seen those capabilities, I strongly recommend that you come across to the Optus stand and just have a look. We had a managing director there who hadn't seen some of this stuff, walked away going, "Why doesn't everyone know?" What I'm hoping is that means we're going to adopt even more within our organisation. It is all about doing something. In fact, we heard the other day 24/7. 24/7/1. So out of this presentation, out of anything here at Cisco Live, pick one thing that you can do in the next 24 hours to then make some change. And then think something easy, something really quick. And then within 7 days, pick something that you can do that's meaningful, that's just a little bit harder, but is going to start to move the needle. And then within the next 30 days or 1 month, pick something that's really going to start to move the needle, because action, getting outcomes and making change is going to make all the difference. So everyone, I'd like to thank you very much. Thank you, Vaughan, for joining me on stage.
Thanks,
really
Cam.
appreciate it.
Great to be here.
We're here. We've actually got a couple of minutes for questions. I'm more than happy to take a couple of questions for anyone that would like to.
We're good?
Any questions?
Just a reminder, Cam, if we can, at 2 o'clock there's a deeper dive session on this topic by one of our distinguished engineers, Vesenessa Sulikowski. We're right here at 2 o'clock to take this down to the next level about how you actually construct the networks and the Spark platform in order to get the outcomes you seek. So if you want to take it down one more level, 2 o'clock right here.
And that's going to be good, right? So you're announcing some stuff too. So without saying too much, there's going to be some new capability that lights this up that it's absolutely a must-see. So guys, thanks very much. Really, there's one question down the back. It probably depends a little bit on the habit. Yeah. So that's actually a complex question. The question was, how long is it to actually break habits? And I'm assuming that's habits around how we work. The thing that we've found is that if the people want the change, the habit changes quite quickly. If you are forcing someone to change, it's almost impossible to get good change to take place. And I think we as organisations, and I'm happy for you to comment too, but what we've seen is that this toy box story, the toy box, where we have great capability, we're forcing it at people, they're just not actually making the change that's necessary. And so we think you've got to rethink that paradigm. Put the users into an environment to start saying what they like, how it makes them feel, and that they want to do it. Make it approachable, and then you get true adoption, and you get change. And then you can't do it as a once-off thing. So you will find people will try things, they make some mistakes, things go just slightly wrong, they'll then drop off, and unless you then re-engage, just to help them understand and move through those early phases, it's a much more difficult change to take place. In terms of time frame, don't really know. But you've got to make it about users. Guys, we're out of time. I think there's a keynote coming. Try and come to the session this afternoon. Thank you very much.